And you will have a little bit of time. You'll have a little bit of time as the meeting continues to continue to network with one another. So if you didn't get a chance to meet people in the room yet, and you see faces that you'd like to introduce yourself to, you'll get a chance to do that. So welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you're here. You are at Senior Roundtable, whether you meant to be or not, you're here now. It would be unbelievably embarrassing for you to take your plate of food and walk out the door. So I'm just gonna say, for your own reputation, we know who you are, we've got you checked in, hang with us. So you're at Senior Roundtable. You'll see more on the dates and all that kind of stuff a little bit. You can see we've got some more meetings coming up. We meet every other month. You'll hear more about that in just a second. And I've already broken the clicker and I'm only on slide number 1. Are you clicking for me?
Trying to.
All right, I'll be like
Yes,
that.
okay.
Not. Okay, watch. Her. All right. For the folks that are on video, give us a wave. We see Neil up there. Patricia's up there, Kathy, Tanya. I can't see who the rest of the group is, but welcome everybody. If you're on video, this slide is for you. If you're willing to keep your video on, we love it because we want to see you. We get it. If you're like, I signed up on purpose, so I didn't have to wash my hair or even get dressed, we get that too. But if you can have your video on, great. Herb is the Zoom producer. He is behind the scenes here on the laptop. He is going to monitor the chat. He's going to set you up for activities, for networking, all that stuff. So Herb is your person. If you need anything, feel free to chat him. The chat box is at the bottom of your screen. You'll also see where the mute is along the bottom, and it's on your own video. If you kind of hover over your own video, you're going to see it there as well. And if you will, put your first and last name, and if you want to add your organization, please do so. Herb in the chat box, again, that chat box along the bottom of your screen, you can see that there's 4 messages there already. That chat box, he's going to put in there how to add your organization if you choose to do that, if that applies to you. And the meeting is recorded. That's for everybody. After the meeting is over next week, we will send out a YouTube link along with any post notes from this meeting, including anything that we see in the chat that we think would be valuable for you to have. We'll grab that out of the chat, kind of clean that up a little bit. It won't say, you know, gosh, this is Herb, et cetera. Even though that's important. Herb is important, but we'll clean up all that. And if people put post notes about events and things like that, we'll include that in the meeting notes going out next week. So you'll have a chance to see that as well. So, is there anybody in here? It's your first Senior Roundtable meeting. Awesome. Welcome. And how about online? Anybody's first meeting?
Neil.
Anybody
Neil.
first?
Yeah,
Neil.
Neil's one of mine from yesterday.
Awesome. Excellent. So you recruited in your meeting yesterday. All right. So welcome. We're really glad that you're here. A little bit about Senior Roundtable. Are you clicking or am I clicking? Do I have the power? Very good. So about Senior Roundtable is where we're going to go first. For anybody who's new, we're just a reminder, if it's been a while since you've been to these meetings. Our meeting sponsor, you'll get a chance to hear from them. We'll have a networking opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to share senior sector announcements with us. End of life resources is our program today. It's something no one likes to talk about. No one likes to think about. I'm sure that there's research out there that says if you even do your will, you're likely to die 10 years earlier than anybody who didn't do a will. It's bad. And it's really not true. And everybody's had people in their lives that we've lost. And those last few days, hours, weeks is just unbelievably painful. And you have to make all kinds of hard decisions at that same time as a loved one of that person. So wonderful to hear. Hopefully we don't need any of these resources for many years for us or people that are in our lives, but absolutely good to know. So looking forward to hearing from our couple of speakers today. And those 2 speakers are right with us already. And maybe it's how I'm pointing it.
Let's try again.
Charlene and Nada, you'll hear from them and we hit the program and then we'll wrap up about 10:30. So that is where we're gonna go. So Gabby's got some green sheets she's gonna pass out. And if you are online, I've got some different instructions for you. But if you have an event coming up that you would like to tell others about in this room, if you've got an event or a collaboration or initiative coming up, hey, we've got this research study coming up on Alzheimer's or mobility or whatever, it would be great if anybody else would like to participate with that. If you will print it on this and we will share that with the group. For those on Zoom, if you would please put that in the chat box. You don't have to do it right now. You've got a few minutes before we do that. But if you have an event happening with your organization or something you're involved in that is senior focused and that you want to let others know, the green sheet is a way to do that. And you can either turn it back into Gabby, who is right here, or you can pass it over to Herb and we'll share that with everybody before we head into the program. So you've got that information there. So I would like to acknowledge, where's my Janet? I just saw her sitting down. Janet Ellen right over here. So this group was started way back, a brainchild of the Community Foundation in 2008. And what started happening is that they started looking at the senior sector to give out grants, et cetera. So they started going around meeting different organizations, nonprofits that did work in that field and realized that a lot of them didn't know of each other. So on Tuesday, they may be meeting with an organization that does wheelchair ramps, maybe medical device supplies, et cetera. They would meet with somebody else on Thursday and, question from the Community Foundation would be, well, where are you struggling? Like, well, we get a lot of requests for this, but we don't have that and we don't know who does. So they started thinking like, how do we get people in the room so they know what each other does and they know of other resources and they know who does what they do. If they need to collaborate or they know who does something different than they do so they can work with their clients and give them more services through working with the other agencies. So that is how Senior Roundtable started. And they have still been today the supporter financially, anything that we need help with. Janet is our person. So if you haven't had a chance to meet Janet, definitely during the networking opportunity here, make sure you say hello to Janet with the Community Foundation. And then Elder Source is everything to us. Elder Source is the building that we're in. Gabby and Andrea right here, two of our folks here. Is there anybody else, Elder Source?
She's not here.
Got it. Emily? They do all the things behind the scenes. They hold the email list, they send out the messages, they just do a ton for us behind the scenes and they support her and have been since, again, day one, Linda Levin, part of that group as well. So thank you to Elder Source for all of that. So who exactly is Senior Roundtable? It's a coalition of anybody who is interested in the senior sector. It is free to anybody who wants to attend. There's never a charge to attend. Most of the time it's on Zoom. We're going to try this hybrid thing. I had a heart attack today trying to get it all set up. I don't have any skills. I don't even pretend like I contributed to it working today. But these guys over here are awesome. And BC is their IT person from Elder Source. So he knows how to work all the systems. And we're very grateful that you're here. So it's open to everybody. The purpose is to network with others. Who's out there and what do they do? And secondly, to learn about something that would be of value for you, either personally or in the field that you are serving, the seniors that you're involved with. Mission statement: support seniors through collaborative relationships. So that is what Senior Roundtable is all about. This group right here is the advisory committee. They are volunteers. They have been asked to help us decide on what's a great program that people would be interested in. What would be something that, that we haven't done for a while that's kind of a kind of a hot topic that people would benefit from? What is it that we've never done that would be valuable to the rest of them? So this group all is somehow involved in the senior sector and volunteer their time to decide what the topic is. And then my second question is, who's the right people to do the presentation? Who's the right people to be on the panel? And they reach out, they do all those contacts. So if you are in the room and your name is on this, Eustacia's in the back of the room in case you can't see him, you can see we've got some folks here. Want to give a shout out to Neil, who you're going to hear from later in the program because he's representing our meeting sponsor who provided the breakfast today. Neil was part of the original group back in 2008. Eventually he dumped us. He found a sexier group that was just lots of fun. I guess they gave away like 3 cars at the end of the meetings. I don't know what happened, but actually his job changed and he ended up in a different thing that really wasn't as connected with us and he didn't have the time anymore. And then now we get to see him today and we're just thrilled. So Neil, good to see you again. And one of the original folks there. So Pamela is going to officially welcome everybody today as an advisory committee volunteer. And Pamela, you've got the
From here or up front or
wherever you would like. The place is comfortable for you.
I'd rather face people. I guess I should have thought about that before I sat down. So. Hey, my name is Pamela Sanderson. I'm with Starling Living. We own and operate 7 senior living communities throughout Northeast Florida and then 3 scattered around. So we have an independent and assisted in Nocatee. We have assisted memory care in Ponte Vedra, assisted memory care in San Jose here on Goodby's Creek. So luxury senior living, come and see us. It's a beautiful place. I have been attending Senior Roundtable, been involved with Senior Roundtable since about 2012. I was working in skilled nursing admissions at the time and somebody recommended coming here. And it was just wild. You were so much fun. And it was.
I used to be a lot more fun.
You are still as much fun. That's what I would call controlled chaos. And one of Laura's talents is teaching people how to network. You have a room, I mean, this room used to be packed, I mean, just like sardines, and you can't possibly talk to that many people at the same time. So a quick greeting, get a card, talk to everybody and then do your follow-ups later. So teaching you how to make the most of your networking. Never think that someone that you're talking to or meeting, oh, I don't need that service. I don't need them. Tomorrow, you might meet someone that you help that needs that, or that person may make another job change. They may become your coworker. They may become your boss. You just never know. So treat networking with all of the value that it deserves to have. And I learned that from you.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for Pamela for being willing to get up this early. And actually do presentations, well, thank you. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can stay connected outside of the meetings. Senior Roundtable email list, Gabby is the person who manages that. So if you're not on the email list getting the meeting notices, we don't spam. You're not gonna get something weekly from us. It really is about a month before the meeting. We say the meeting's coming up. Put it on your calendar. We'll give you the RSVP. We'll give you details, all that stuff. So Gabby is your person right here. We also have a LinkedIn group and you can see that there. I've also printed this. It's on the back wall. So, because I'm going to slide forward here in just about a second. You have that back there. If you're like, what was the name of that Senior Roundtable LinkedIn group again? And we just ask, don't over post, meaning if somebody's posting every single day, especially if it's not senior focused and what the purpose of the group is, people stop getting any of the notifications, which is completely defeats the purpose of the LinkedIn profile page. So please join us. You can find the others. And if you'll say, I met that Neil guy, I can't remember where he worked, but he was awesome. He probably is in that LinkedIn group. And if he's not, he probably feels guilty now and he'll be joining. So we'll see him in there. All right, I don't think I have control. I think it's a placebo and you guys are making me feel like I know what I'm doing and you're not. Okay. So our meeting sponsor, every meeting, we ask for someone to sponsor. If it's a virtual meeting, only a virtual meeting, then they give away a couple gift cards. If it's an in-person meeting, they sponsor that awesome breakfast that you see in there today. Today it is Choice Matters Home Healthcare. And on their behalf, Neil, you have the floor for 3 minutes. You can stay where you are. You can stand up. You can come up here, whatever you would like to do. So please join me to welcome Neil as he makes the long walk.
Great to be here today. I've been a social worker for over 30 years. I've been here in Jacksonville this is my 25th year. Been here, originally came out from California. And went to Rutgers, got my MSW, and been doing work in healthcare since 2008, senior care since 2008. And I've been doing home health off and on for about 5 years. And one of the first agencies I went to work with years ago was with Choice Matters. And so I was working here last year and we had some changes and I'm like, I want to get back to home health. I love home health. And I love going out, working with clients, working with their caregivers to figure out what all community resources do our clients need out there that are getting skilled nursing and PT and OT and all that. So I want to tell you a little bit about our agency. I made some notes. I get kind of focused on our clients and like, where do I work? What do those people do over there? So anyway, we've been around, Choice Matters has been around for 17 years, about as long as Senior Roundtable interests.
Yeah.
And we serve all of Northeast Florida, all of the basic 5 counties here. And our mission is to positively impact the lives of our patients and their families through comprehensive patient-centered care. And that is really the key thing about what can make our agency stand out is that we keep everyone's treated as individual. Their situations are unique. In the last month, I have gone out to work with someone that was living in a room by themselves. They had no resources, no connections. They had no money. A week later, I went out to Ponte Vedra, and I'm working with someone basically that's needed a few hours of care. They could afford to hire a home care agency. So it's the gamut. And we serve both seniors and we also serve disabled people. I've served a couple of people recently that were in their 40s that were on Medicaid, had Medicare, but again, needed resources out there. They needed wound care, they needed PT. So they need a wide variety of resources. So we serve both seniors and the disabled. And we serve a wide variety, and we take a wide variety of insurances, right, Tammy?
That's true.
So,
Yes.
so a really wide variety. Obviously Medicare, but what are the other ones that we take?
You'll see this on everybody's table. This has a list of all of our insurances, but we take a lot of managed care, the Care Plus, Blue Cross and Shield, Aetna, which is what nobody seems to want to take these days.
the Humana plans.
We could, what a bit.
And then also too, one of the things that also I think separates us, I can't say, you know, I don't know how everyone else does their business, but one of the things that I think we pride ourselves on and we really enjoy is communication. I mean, I communicate with Tammy on a regular basis. And then when I go out and see a patient, before I go out, I read their entire medical record. I know if they're getting PT, OT, I read the whole comprehensive view of the patient. So I know sort of what their ADLs look like and their IADLs. I have a good idea of the kind of support that they have going out there. So after that meeting, if I know I'll talk to the PT and I'll see something and I can call the PT and say, hey, what do you think? They need a transfer bench? Do they need a cane? Do they need a ramp coming into their house? This is what I'm thinking. They'll say, oh yeah, Neil. So I'll talk with the people that are specialists in each of the different areas, because I'm not a specialist in those things. I haven't been trained in PT and OT, but those people are working on that. So then I'll work with them and I'll say, okay, I know where I can get a ramp. I know where I can get a cane. I know I can get all these different things to make to basically fill out their care plan, the things that they need from each of the different specialists out there. So same thing, I worked in long-term care at skilled nursing, so I have good knowledge of wound care too, and the supplies that are needed for that, and sometimes that can get expensive also, and so I'm gonna help with that too.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. So we have a focus really on facilitating successful transition from wherever you are at a hospital, skilled nursing, to home, and making sure, especially those first few weeks, that the patient is successful. Because one of our main goal is home health, as you probably already know, that we want to prevent people from going back to the hospital. We want to prevent ER visits as much as possible. So one of the things I tell our clients is that if you don't feel well, don't hit the ER button, call your nurse. And I'll ask them, do you know the name of your nurse? Okay, your nurse's name so-and-so. I'll write it down. Call them if you don't feel well. We're here for you. We are a team of people. You can call me if that's more comfortable, and I'll call the nurse. Whatever it is that we need to do as a team to work together for your health, that's what we'll do.
And anything else for any other notes or anything that you want to share? You're good.
No, that's
So Neil works with those folks and as you had for years and years and years, and that's that awesome breakfast that you see in there. So when you get a chance to say hello to them as they're mingling in this networking event coming up here next, please make sure you say hello and get business cards, whatever you need to do. So thank you. All right, so it is time to say hello to folks. We're gonna take about probably 10 minutes total, just FYI, so I don't know if you wanna do 5 minutes or if you wanna just do one group of 10, however you wanna do it there. So this is an opportunity for you to fast forward. Thank you. Go back one slide. So here's what's happening with this, to learning in process. Since he's interacting with the chat, the mouse doesn't know to let me take control because it's just one of those technology things. There's nothing wrong with any of the system. Is trying to do dual. Is causing there's disruption here. So I've accepted my fate. I need to count on these guys at the table here. So senior sector announcements. If you are in the Zoom room and have an announcement, if you will please put it in the chat box. And we will also include those. We clean up the chat messages as I mentioned. And if there's anything in there, even after our program starts, if we see anything, once the meeting is over, we clean all of that up. We'll send it out next week along with that recording. In this room, where is Angel? Here. Angel has written that they have an event coming up, a senior mixology health fair, and she's with Southeast Facility and Southside Senior Enrichment Council. And that is May 12th from 2 to 4 and June 9th, November 11 to 2. So Angel is your person for that mixology and health fair mocktail. The cocktails also, and I know I've talked about margaritas already. But I don't even like margaritas. That was just a reference to somebody who would, but mocktails. And then free to attend?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with the West Side Senior Enrichment Council. So we have started the South Side Enrichment Council over here.
Nice.
So our first event's going to be a mixology, and the idea is for seniors to attend as well as senior business partners to kind of put them all in the same room to kind of meet, very casual event.
Excellent.
So I have flyers and stuff on that. So
excellent. So if you would like to pass those out, or if anybody wants a flyer, come and see Angel. I didn't get any other green things. Is there any sitting that I did not see? Okay. So we are ready. You'll go to the next one. Let me do the introduction, Herb, and then you can flip over to Charlene's. So if Charlene and Ada would come up and join us. This is their background. We included it in the email invite, so you've seen this before. They also have a longer biography that Gabby attached to the last few emails going out. Again, a resource that is invaluable, and when you need it, it's almost too late to educate yourself on it. So for all of us, again, hopefully a long time before we need it. I did not know there was such a thing as a end-of-life doula until we had a meeting last September, this group did, at River Garden. Here, come on. At River Garden, and somebody was in the audience. I don't know if they were here, and Nate, I don't think it was you. Somebody in the audience when they were doing introductions and stuff like that said she was an end-of-life doula. It's like, I've never heard of such a thing, and that makes total sense. And what is it that they do, et cetera. So this topic that both of these ladies are going to speak about has been on our minds for months since then. So it was nice that this finally came up, and it worked out for both of their schedules that they could join us today. So they each have a time that they're going to be doing. Hers running the clock over there on his timer. So Charlene's going to have 20 minutes, and then she's going to throw it over to Nada. We'll wrap up about 10:25. If they're both finished and there's time for open questions, we'll open it up for questions. So they each have something that they're prepared. They're going to have some. Neil probably doesn't know that he's our spokesperson here right now. Hi, Neil. We got you front and center. Everybody's waving at you. Hi, Neil. How are you? How you doing? So we're going to turn it over to the folks here, and please feel free, if you want to add anything to your intro, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. I feel like I know everyone in this room so well now. I'm Charlene Beymer with Community Hospice and Palliative Care, and I started as a volunteer in 1999 and have worked in different capacities over the years. And I've also experienced the care of community hospice through the service to my father with end-stage ALS for 7 months. So I could talk a really long time. I'm going to try to keep it to 20 minutes. And share information that I think will be helpful to you. Some of you have mentioned to me that you are often mentioned something about hospice to someone, they go, no, 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 because they don't understand. So we're going to start doing a little myth busting. And I hope this works for me. Yes. Hospice is a place. This is a big myth. Have you ever heard anyone say they're going to hospice? Going to hospice. Well, hospice is not a place. Oops, there we go. First error on the clicker. Well, okay.
Okay.
It's actually a philosophy of care. It's a unique type of care that's designed to assist individuals with life-limiting illness who are no longer seeking curative care. And it is also a very holistic type of care. And we see hospice as part of the natural continuum. When someone's on hospice, we neither speed up or slow down that dying process. But there are studies that indicate that individuals on hospice often live an average of 29 days longer, because obviously when your pain and your symptoms are down, your quality of life and comfort go up. So that is something that we always like to point out. And it wasn't a hospice study, it was a medical study. So very, very objective. And so we are really focused on providing comfort and dignity. It's not just the patients, but the caregivers and the family. And we always like to tell people, when you think of hospice, don't think of death and dying, think of life and living. Everyone should be able to live the rest of their life, whatever period of time that may be, with as much comfort and dignity as possible. And that is our goal. So we know it's not a place, but where is care provided? Care is provided in individuals' homes, wherever that may be. We serve people on sailboats, but we work in private residences, assisted living facilities, memory support facilities, as well as long-term care nursing homes. We also have staff in all the hospitals in our area, and we have 10 inpatient units, and they're scattered throughout the community, and they are not residential. They're for short-term acute type care. And these are just a list of our inpatient centers. And the reason we have these spread out is so that for the families, if they have a loved one that needs inpatient care, it's not far away. They can bring the family pet, they can come and spend the night, they can run home and do errands, and it really helps. And I like to tell people too, patients leave our inpatient facilities alive too. Sometimes we get patients from the hospital and they're not yet ready. They're not stabilized enough to go home or to go even into an assisted living. And they may come into the inpatient center for a short period of time, a matter of days, to get fully stabilized, and then we'll follow them home wherever that may be. Another myth, this is the big one, that hospice is only appropriate in the last few days of life. This is the myth that self-perpetuates people waiting till the last few days of life to call. It's really for anyone that has a life-limiting illness, and they're looking at a 6 to 12 month life expectancy. For Medicare to covered, it's 6 months, but no one has a crystal ball. Everyone's journey is a little different, but this is a parameter set up by Medicare because we weren't created to provide 9 years of care for individuals with chronic illness. So it is really focused on end of life care. And individuals that involve hospice earlier have so many, and we'll talk a little bit about the different things that are provided. A lot of people just think pain and symptom management, but it's so much more. It's very patient and family centered. And what we want to do is we don't just address the pain and symptoms. We also address the emotional needs, the psychosocial needs, and the spiritual needs. So again, a very holistic program. And the critical support to family caregivers. I can tell you when my dad was in hospice for 7 months with end-stage ALS, we were body doubles for him. We could not have done it without that support. It just made a world of difference. And we got a lot of counseling and education on how to do things better without hurting ourselves, which was great. And we do work with individuals. We honor their beliefs and their traditions. This is my favorite slide because the patients and caregivers are in the center. Patients and caregivers are really the captain of our care team. We have physicians that overlook the care and nurses. They're experts in pain and symptom management. Our social workers help with counseling, help with preparing for end of life, if they're filling bills, if they haven't selected a funeral home, but they also help the family to connect with other resources. And I know, as a lot of you social workers do, within the community that they can benefit from. So that's part of that service as well. We have home health aides that help with bathing and grooming. My dad, he called our home health aide that came 2 or 3 times a week his Purple Valentine. And I got to tell you, for family, the sun rose and set on the day she came because it was a lot of work for bathing and grooming someone that's, 6'2" and totally unable to move, even though his brain was sharp as it could be. So that's a difference. We have trained social workers, trained volunteers. Our volunteers are awesome. And sometimes our patients need someone to talk to about things they're experiencing that their family's not ready to hear. So they're trained in active listening, very confidential, and they're all fully, have a full background check. So they're fully vetted. We have chaplains that meet with the patients on whatever level that they are at, and non-denominational, physical therapist. And the physical therapy is more to help maintain the mobility, to help with transferring, to kind of keep them where they are as long as they can be. And we also have bereavement specialists at the end that follow the patients and families for up to 13 months. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. giving up hope. A lot of people say, no, if we turn to hospice, we're giving up hope. That is not true. We find that with people, when they come into hospice and their pain, and their symptoms are better managed, they're getting a lot of support, then they can have hope for spending time with their family and feeling comfortable enough to do that. They may be able to get to that granddaughter's piano recital. We have helped with little wedding ceremonies in the home so the father can walk the daughter down the aisle. So really it's a lot, there's a lot of hope to be had in this situation, and hope comes in so many different forms. Hospice is only for people with cancer. We provide care for individuals with all sorts of end-stage illness. We also, in terms of dementia, are now a selected provider for the GUIDE program. And I have flyers on it. That's a whole topic on its own, but those are individuals that are not hospice appropriate. And it's a 8-year Medicare program to provide additional support to individuals with dementia, as long as they're not on hospice or in a nursing home, to provide additional support for them, some respite. So it's an exciting program, and we're really proud to have an opportunity to be a provider. Hospice is only for people. A lot of people think hospice is really expensive. I took a referral from a pastor, and a woman was taking care of her husband, and she kept saying, no, because they're going to take my house. I can't pay for all that. And finally, I came out and I met with her and explained the situation, that care is paid for by Medicare, Medicaid, and most insurance policies, but that community hospice, as a true nonprofit, provides care regardless of ability to pay. So no one is ever turned down if they meet the eligibility for having a hospice program. Anyway, this sweet lady, she finally said yes. We got her on board. The nurse went out the next day, and she looked at the caregiver and she said, you don't look, have you seen your doctor? Like, oh, no, I'm fine. And 2 days later, she's back up there again. And she said, maybe you should go to the emergency room. Long story short, she had waited until she was really declining, probably more quickly than he was. She went to the hospital. We set up respite care for her, and she was had not taken her heart medication, had not seen her doctor for like 1.5 years, 2 years, not watching her blood sugar. So she had to kind of get stabilized in the hospital. And then once she came home and settled in, we got her husband there back with her. So it's amazing that some of these myths prevail. Again, it means nothing. People feel it means nothing can be done, but a lot of things can be done. When cure is not possible, people are still entitled to have a good quality of life and have their pain and symptoms managed and get the good support they need for the family and for the loved one. And the quality of life, as I've said, we have done lots of different things. We've had graduation parties in one of our inpatient units. People get married. It's really about those pockets of joy and the opportunity to comfortably experience them. Hospice is only for the patient. I've talked a lot about the family, caregivers, and that is huge. Sometimes, as I mentioned that case before, the caregivers start burning out before the patient. And so getting that extra care and support to them can make a huge difference. I know for our family, my dad, he was a Marine, retired Marine, so very stoic, and he didn't want hospice for him. He wanted it for the family. And however we did it, we were grateful, and it made a huge difference for us. I know anytime the nurse came in, she would take care of Dad, meet his needs, adjust his meds. Before she left, she would step up to me and say, your dad's doing pretty good, Charlene. How about you? Sometimes I said, I'm doing pretty good too. And sometimes the floodgates open. But that support was it was incredible. And I knew she had lots of patients, but it always seemed as though when she came to see us, we were the only patient family that she was working with. So makes a big difference. All providers are the same. In today's world, that's not true. There are a lot of for-profits and a lot of nonprofit providers. Actually, there are more and more for-profits. And I know all of you work in healthcare, so we see a lot more of any kind of a healthcare business being purchased by investors, that sort of thing. So as a nonprofit, Community Hospice, we've been here serving since 1979. And we do not answer to stockholders, we answer to you. We answer to our community. We care for our friends and our family. And as far as our mission, I know Neil was reading his mission earlier. We are mission driven to provide quality of life for patients and family and to be a guide in our community by providing things like our honoring choices, bereavement care for individuals that did not have a loved one in our program, and things such as that. And we focus on the needs of our community. We serve 16 counties. Our home office, so to speak, is on Sunbeam Road, the Hadlow Center. And we're community supported because we support the community. Community also supports us. And it enables us to have a great depth of services. And at any given time, we have about 1,500 patients in service, and we have over 1,000 employees and over 500 doctors. And we are the first and only community-based nonprofit. So what kind of care is provided? We've touched on that, but it's, again, very comprehensive. I can't stress enough that we are meeting the needs, not only physically and symptom-wise, but also emotional, social, and spiritual. Each patient is unique. It's not cookie cutter care. The needs, it's not, if you worked with one dementia patient, you've worked with one dementia patient. Everyone's different. Every family's different. And again, supporting the family and caregivers. And as part of the hospice benefit, we provide the medications related to the admitting diagnosis. We also provide the equipment and the supplies needed to provide the very best of care. I've spoken about our team of volunteers in Circle. I showed you some of the additional complementary services that we can offer as a nonprofit. We have massage therapists. We have child life specialists, and the child life specialists are wonderful. They work with the children involved because when they're losing mom or dad or a grandparent, it's a very different journey for them. So we have child life specialists to assist with that. And we also have music therapists. And music therapy is actually an evidence-based therapy. So it makes a world of difference when we come out and share music with someone in our program. It leads to telling stories, memories. It's a great program. And again, bereavement support. I didn't even realize this one had all these different steps. So, community hospice, we also have one of the few pediatric programs in the nation, and that's for children that are 0 to 21. This is kind of fun. And we partner with Nemours, Wolfson's, and UNF. It's for children that are end of life, but also children that are born with life-limiting illnesses. They may well live into adulthood. We help them navigate the medical community. We provide support. Our child life specialists work with them as well. If they get to go to school, we go in and talk with the staff, with the students. So when that child comes in with a lot of extra equipment, they're accepted better and it's not frightening. So a lot of beautiful things happen with our Peds Care program. We are level 4 with We Honor Vets, and we are just specially trained to work with vets because they have a lot of issues at end of life that things they've repressed often. And we do a lot with them. We do a pinning for every veteran that comes into the program, and we also have flags. We have a palliative department as well for individuals that are not quite at the don't need hospice. It's kind of any stage of illness, and they can be receiving curative care as well. And that is with, we have nurse practitioners that provide that care, social workers, and that is really helpful for people. And they may end up in hospice at some point, or they may not. They may be in that program a lot. That's a whole different subject. Honoring choices, I brought some of those. We have, it's advanced care planning. We also provide 5 wishes because we really encourage everyone to get prepared. If you're 18 or over, you should consider having a living will. Our bereavement support, we have for our families, we provide up to 13 months. Anybody here to think, to say why you think it's 13 months that we follow up?
All the firsts.
All the first, get through the first and that anniversary. Sometimes people say no until the anniversary day. But we also have a camp for children. And we have pet therapy and pet peace of mind. I do have some brochures at the table over there that talk about our bereavement services we provide for individuals that are not in our program for the community. And I have 10 seconds, but I'm gonna go for a minute. I'd like to kind of finish with a few quotes from an individual that I met recently, because I think the value of hospice is best expressed through those who have experienced the care. And this was Mary. I met out in the community, not a hospice nurse, but she was a nurse. And when her mom was diagnosed with an advanced illness, she said, I'm a nurse, my brother's a PA, he doesn't live in the area. We've got this, we'll take care of it. And she did. And then as her mom declined and her needs increased, hospice was suggested, and she said, no, I'm a nurse. I've got it. But then as time went by, she said, and I quote, I was anxious and lost. I was stumbling around in the dark until I called community hospice, and it made all of the difference. And then she said, I knew the pain and symptoms would be managed, and I didn't know how much they would also care for me. And she said, I was amazed at the dignity and gentleness that they served my mother with. But she summarized the experience, which I think is so important, by saying, I was still my mother's caregiver. And they let me feel totally in charge. But with all the support and guidance that we received, I got to be her daughter again. Mm-hmm. And she said that was the very best gift of having the hospice service. So I thank you for your time. Think of life and living. And I've got lots of brochures over there and information for the end of this. And maybe we'll have questions at the end or however that works. Thank you all for your attention.
So as we wrap up towards 10:30, if you want, you can kind of tell us what you want handed out, or people to stop at a table to get it on their way out, whatever you want to do with the brochure. So
thank you.
Nada, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. You got, we can go to like 10:28. We just have a couple slides saying thank you to folks and telling them what the next dates are. So, and if you want us to help you with that, you can, but otherwise you've got the floor. All right, so 10:28, Herb, if you could,
the time,
whatever that math is.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, hello, my name is Nada Frazier, and I just want to take a few moments to thank you, Laura, for all of the kindness and just guidance that she's given. I want to recognize Elizabeth Paulson, who is a friend of mine from long ago, who actually made me familiar with this group. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. We'll advance here. I always like to start with just giving folks an opportunity to just take a breath So if you would like to join me, if you don't want to, that's okay. But I do this with almost every patient and client that I work with. And so if you'll just take a moment and if you're comfortable, close your eyes. Even for those of you in our video land, I invite you to join us as well. Just breathe in through your nose like you're smelling a flower, and out through your mouth like you're gently blowing out a birthday cake candle. In through your nose like you're smelling a flower, out. I'm curious, does anyone feel any different after having done that? Welcome to my world. This is what I do. So I wear a lot of different hats in my world. I am founder of the Sacred Servant. That's my company where I do my counseling and coaching and end-of-life doula work in there. As well as I'm a community educator. I created a class called Live Consciously by Exploring Death. I teach it in several different venues, including UNF OLLI program. I volunteer there and teach it there. I also have taught it at retirement communities like Fleet Landing, where I am passionate. If you have learned anything from me at the end of this presentation, I hope you'll take away that I'm very passionate about. I really do believe that by talking about death, we will have a better life each and every day. I am a certified grief-informed professional. And also the founder and facilitator of something called the Death Cafe of Northeast Florida and beyond, and I'll tell y'all more about that. So in my private practice, that particular hat I wear, I believe in compassion and holistic counseling, body, mind, and spirit. When I work with folks, I use evidence-based tools. Majority of my practice focuses on people in life transition with emotional wellness issues, relationships, stress and anxiety management, coping strategy, and different tools that people can use, chronic illness, caregiving, end of life, trauma, loss, and grief support, as well as professionals experiencing career transitions, burnout, or compassion fatigue. I always like to say I am not the only therapist in the world. I think it is critically important that people choose a therapist that resonates with them. And so I've provided one resource, which is www.psychologytoday.com. You can click on a tab that says find a therapist. You can put in your zip code, and then you can kind of shop for a therapist, so to speak. It's kind of like going on certain websites and figuring out what you want.
Dating apps.
Typically, pardon?
Dating apps.
Yes, I was going to use that analogy. Thank you that's exactly swipe left if they're not working. But the important thing is to find someone that resonates with you, right? And the different tools that they use. And if you are, for example, working in a grief area, or you are someone with a chronic illness, or approaching the end of your life, making sure that you choose someone who has experience with that would be my thought on that. I wanted to just talk a little bit about grief and bereavement support. Each person grieves in their own unique way. I can't tell you how many times I hear folks say, well, my mother died too, so I know how you feel. And yes, we have some insight into what it is like when a loved one dies, but each person's experience is unique based on their relationship, based on their experiences, there's just so many different things that factor in. And there's just no one way to grieve. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has been quoted for many years about the 5 stages of grief, right? Well, they're not like a stair step, or they're not like they're not in order. They're not 1, 2, 3, 4. They're more like this, And so bearing in mind that again, and David Kessler has a book called Finding Meaning, which he worked with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's a good book that adds kind of, in his opinion, what I'll call a 6th stage, finding meaning. So there's all kinds of different kinds of grief. There's ambiguous grief. Sometimes we don't think much about it, but sometimes ambiguous grief can be, for example, someone disappears and there's no body, or there's just certain things that certainly can compact someone's relationship with grief. Anticipatory grief, I would say, for those that have a serious diagnosis or have been diagnosed with a terminal disease, then obviously anticipatory grief on their part as well as on their loved one's part. Complicated or delayed grief. If you have multiple deaths at one time, it can fall into complicated. Traumatic grief, chronic grief. Traumatic grief, of course, would be perhaps having some kind of serious accident or homicide or that kind of experience. Chronic grief. As well as disenfranchised grief. Not everyone has the perfect relationship with the person who died, right? And so if you are estranged from your loved one, or that doesn't mean, even if you're estranged, it doesn't mean that you don't have grief. Delayed grief. Anybody here be like, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I got this. No, it's not good. I'm all good. Right? I personally am that person, at least I was many years ago, suffered an incredibly difficult loss of a child, but I was fine because I know all this, right? I know it. And really didn't deal with it at the time until it came back, and I'll use the kind language of it bit me in the face. And so I am passionate about people receiving the support that they need at end of life, whether it be private grief counseling. If someone is in hospice, as Charlene alluded to, they provide the 13 months of free bereavement counseling, which is amazing, as well as other hospices. And then, of course, there are standalone grief support groups that different churches or spiritual communities. I always encourage folks to do that. So here's another hat, right? Because not everything is mental health service that I do, right? There is a difference in life and death coaching. It is not mental health counseling services, right? And so in life coaching, helping people identify and develop strategies and achieve their goals, self-discovery, growth, strengths, mindfulness, and empowerment. In a death coaching environment, it's accompanying, guiding, listening, advocating, supporting, talking about, and helping them identify what best quality of life and end of life good death looks like for them. Advanced planning, organization, and preparation, identifying those things. For example, I don't do a will with somebody. I don't do that, but I certainly help people identify. I haven't done that, so I need to do my advanced care planning, or I need to contact a lawyer, or whatever the case may be. Authentic discussions regarding illness, life, and death, spirituality, cultural considerations, exploring new perspectives, possibilities, personal growth, and development. Is anybody here like super comfortable talking to everybody they meet about death? Is it something you talk about a lot at your dinner tables? Why? right? So having someone who is a third-party person who can talk about those difficult things and help you process can be helpful. Coaching and supporting caregivers, family, friends, long-distance loved ones. I have a lot of folks that just call me and say, I've got a loved one that has this situation and I just want to know how best to help them. And so it may be a one-time phone call or a one-time appointment with them, just giving them ideas on how they can do all kinds of different things as far as supporting their loved one. Assist in memory making, creating legacy projects. I mean, you know, if you want to capture your loved one's heartbeat, there's an app for that, right? If you want to get their thumbprint, there's an app for that. If you want to create, for those that are, you know, want to create their own legacy, there's, you know, ideas of picking up your phone and making a video about, did I ever tell you the story about when I went to school and I had to walk 10 miles in the snow and whatever, right? But I mean, those precious memories that I promise you, when they are no longer with you, are invaluable, right? And so then helping to plan and create a disposition of body cremains. I've accompanied people to their funeral home of choice and sat with them while they discussed cremation, there are some folks in the world that do not have family. They've outlived their family members. And so I have certain people that I have committed that I will take their cremains and will do what it is that they have requested as best I can. I always tell people I ask for an asterisk, right? Meaning I will do my very best to do what you want, but I need a plan B, I need a plan C. Guidance, if I, for whatever reason, unable to do that. I can tell you a personal example. Both of my mother and my stepfather gave me instructions on what they wanted done with their cremains. They wanted it spread in the backyard at the house they built. It was a Victorian home in Texas that was very beautiful, except guess what? By the time they died, they sold the home, right? So I fly into Texas from Florida, and on the plane, I'm writing this very hopefully compelling letter to the owner that I have no clue who they are. I go straight from the airport, drive to their home, leave it on their front porch because no one was home. Said, here's the thing. My parents built this house. They really want to have their cremains spread in the backyard. I completely understand if I don't hear from you, but I got to ask, right? I heard from them. I was able to honor my parents' wishes, right? But knowing that's why I say give your family an asterisk, right? Because then I would have had to come up with alternative plans. And then, of course, I do training, mentoring, and community education. So the class that I created is called Live Consciously by Exploring Death. It's one of my very favorite things to do because I love working with people and getting them to think about these things long before they're in what I call the hot minute, right? It is a whole lot different to go home tonight and say, I met this crazy lady and she made me think about, do I want to be cremated or do I want to be buried or do I want to whatever? And have that discussion at the dinner table tonight. That's going to be a whole different conversation than going home and doing that after you've received a diagnosis, right? Now's the time to be thinking about all this. Emotionally, it's easier to start having these discussions if you do it prior to that hot minute. And so this is just kind of the outline typically of how the class goes. I do it in several different venues and different things. And this is the thing that a lot of people want to know about. What is a death doula? I didn't even know there was such a thing, right? Because we've got birth doulas. Well, guess what? We got death doulas. And so They can be called lots of different things. This is, NEDA is the National End of Life Doula Alliance. That is a resource that I would encourage you to look up if you want to know. It has incredible information. I do want to disclose that I served on their board several years ago, so I'm a little bit prejudiced. It is a membership organization. But you can go to Florida and you can see all the folks who are members of that organization that serve people in the state of Florida as end-of-life doulas and trainers. So certified in the end-of-life doula world means that the quality of your certificate lies in the quality of the program that you took, right? I can tell you as a licensed clinical social worker, you can hear me say that, and many of you would understand that means I had to take a 4-hour test in the state of Florida. I had to have 1,500 hours of in-person you know what I mean? There are certain rules, or if somebody's an RN, the certificate with an end-of-life doula lies in the quality of the program. There is no national binding organization for that. Proficiency badge at NEDA, a proficiency badge, say that 3 times, means that they have taken the NEDA test that has the mandatory minimum requirements that NEDA believes someone should have. So that's what that means. And so there are organizations, as I understand it, that are using end-of-life doulas, especially in the Northeast. And I've seen them, they're in hospice organizations. They're in some home health organizations. They, at least as I understand it, I don't have a massive amount of knowledge about that. And they are in organizations that support end of life and work that way. How does someone become an end of life doula? Did I just wake up one morning and go, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm gonna go out and be a death doula because that sounds fun. No, honestly, I'm honoring my grandmother Hope's legacy. My name, Neda, most people wonder, if you speak Spanish, why on earth my parents named me Nada, which means nothing, right? But that's not why I was named that. My grandmother Hope, in Slavic, Neda or Naja, means hope. And so I was named for my grandmother. And so my grandmother and I predate hospice. Hospice came around in the 1970s, right? Well, guess what, folks? I predate that. And so before people had a hospice organization to go to for assistance, there typically was a family member that would take in other family members when they were ill or were dying. My grandmother was that person. And so I lived a lot on my grandparents' farm in Texas, much of my early life. And so I grew up crawling in bed with my granny and adjusting her oxygen. I grew up reading books and telling stories and accompanying my grandmother. I didn't know it was called end-of-life doula. It was called being a loving family member, right? And so I have been, as I became older, I mean, I didn't think there was anything weird about it. It was just what we do. Of course, I was on a farm. You have cycle of life experiences on a farm. Crops have seasons. Animals have seasons. It's just, it was a normal part of life to me. As I became an adult, I actually am a 40-year paralegal. So my work during the day was as a paralegal, but I became kind of that go-to person in the neighborhood. When my next door neighbor was diagnosed with brain cancer, I immediately supported my neighbor, their children, all the things. Nobody called that death doula back then, right? So there's all kinds of different reasons that people are compelled to go into this. I would say I've been a death doula all my life. I just decided 10 years ago when I'm reading, or maybe it was 12, I can't remember, and I'm reading and I see death doula, I'm like, ooh, what's that? And then it's like they have my picture there. And I also do want to give a shout out to community hospice because I worked in the day at a law firm as a paralegal. And then at night and on weekends, I was a volunteer at community hospice. So a lot of what I've done over during that 12, I think it was years that I was a volunteer for them, is where I really cut my teeth on being an end-of-life doula because I was a volunteer serving people at the end of their life. I also took clinical pastoral education, CPE 1, through community hospice. So I do have to give them a shout out.
We appreciate all of your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Here is information. Go to www.nidaalliance.org. As well as I want to make sure you're aware that the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, NHPCO, has an end-of-life doula council and advises businesses and other practitioners in the end-of-life field how to use end-of-life doulas. So I encourage you, those of you who have business, to go and check that out. And then if you just have more, there are death doulas coming out of the woodworks right now, y'all. So you can find stuff on YouTube, TED Talks, tons of books are coming out, as well as multiple publications and podcasts, some of which I've been a part of. So what's the best gift you have ever given? Well, I personally consider giving the gift of love and peace of mind to yourself and your loved ones is a pretty awesome gift. And one way to do that is to be prepared for the end of your life, right? And so this is, I had worked with someone who gave me permission and asked that I use their name, who created this book of love for their family. It had all their important information in it, had their advance directives, had their living will, had their just different information, their different bank account. I got 3 daughters. They don't live here in Florida. So imagine that I die. They're going to come in and I don't even know if they know where I bank, right? And so creating, getting your stuff together. My husband and I call ours the Book of the Dead. We've told our kids for years, go to the Book of the Dead. Here's where it's at. We've given them thumb drives of information. We update it periodically. But it is a really important way for us to communicate to our children what they need to know, not in the event of our death, but when we die. I am going to just talk briefly about, I have someone that I worked with. I wanted to give you an example of what a life and death coach and end-of-life doula can do, which is I had someone come to me. They had a terminal diagnosis. They were familiar with the class that I taught. They said, I want you to help me have the best death that I can have and support my husband through it. They explicitly requested that I use their name, gave me a written release because paralegal in me would never say or release and breach confidentiality, but this was part of her legacy because she wanted people to understand that having this kind of support at the end of their life was invaluable. And so she died earlier this month. And so being able to accompany her husband, and they would have joint sessions, individual sessions, where they both could talk about what they had, talking about what's important to you, what do you want to do between now and that day, taking those trips, getting things together for family. I do want to talk about palliative care, which Charlene covered, so I'm just going to kind of go through this very briefly, but palliative care in the environment in which I work is a hospital. It focuses on identifying patients' goals of care, quality of life, symptom management, advanced care planning. I do want to hit the misconceptions. People mistakenly believe that palliative care is hospice care. I can't tell you how many times I've said the word palliative and people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's not that, it is appropriate to have palliative care if you have a serious end-of-life diagnosis. It does not replace primary care treatment. You can continue to treat and have palliative care. They are an extra layer of support. And it does not replace hospice care. And my work that I do, I go into when we have someone in the hospital, I do work for Mayo Hospital as the inpatient palliative care social worker. I am not here as a Mayo representative, but this is the work that I do, and I certainly can talk about that. I provide emotional support because you can imagine if you're in the ICU, you or your loved one, or in another area of the hospital, there's a lot to process. Right? And so helping people with that, I'm trained in all kinds of symptom management and stress reduction and meditation. I address their immediate needs. I acknowledge and explore with them chronic pain, disease, disability, as well as when they have children. If you are a parent in a hospital bed, what are you the most concerned about? I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about how to talk to them about this, how to help them. I am not a child life specialist. If they do go into hospice, that's where I look for the child life specialist to be a support to them and encourage people to do that. But I do enough to talk to parents about how to communicate with their children. And if they're going to be bringing their children to the hospital, how best to make sure that it is not a trauma event, hopefully. Right, preparing children for that. I also lead and facilitate a transplant caregiver support group. These are just some of the different things that I do. And so, what's the elephant in the room, folks? Death. So I gifted each of you that are here in person today with an elephant. Why? Because I don't want you to forget that it's always there. Can anybody tell me statistically what the death rate is?
100%.
You win a prize. Take an elephant. Death is more than just a physical experience. It's a holistic experience, right? And we can live more consciously by thinking about our own death, thinking about what we want at the end of our life, communicating our thoughts and preferences to our loved ones. Have you asked what your loved ones want? I encourage people. One of the best discussions I had a sister that I talked to her. We went out to dinner one night and I'm like, you know what? I think I've decided I'm going to be cremated. And I think I want X, Y, and Z. To which my sister then said, I think I do too. It ended up being an incredibly valuable discussion because my sister was not in favor of doing any kind of paperwork other than designating me healthcare surrogate. But because we had that discussion 3 years before in a casual setting, and I started it with not, hey, what do you want to do when you die? Right? I started it with, this is what I want. I'm curious, what do you think you want? It guided me through the end of her life when I did have to make decisions. This is a wonderful project that I'd love to see us do in Jacksonville. It's called Before I Die, I Want To. Fascinating to give community an opportunity to think about that. Deaf Cafe. Deaf Cafe, you can go at deafcafe.com. They were founded several years ago in Europe. I founded one here in Jacksonville area. We call it Deaf Cafe of Northeast Florida and beyond. It is no charge, no anything. It's just a community discussion where people come together and feel comfortable talking about death. So we can have anything from people want to talk, and they guide what we talk about every month. I've been doing this since 2018. We meet monthly. During the pandemic, we went virtual. I've stayed virtual because we have people coming from all over the world now to our Deaf Cafe. Europe, Holland, Canada, although I don't know if Canadians going to be coming along. But the point being that we have people from all over the world that come to Deaf Cafe. I'm happy to tell you more about that. And so I hope that you will be mindful of the elephant in your room now, right? And I want to thank each of you for gifting me 30 minutes of your most valuable life, right? That's a big commitment that you've made. And I hope that you'll continue to really think about living your life fully before you die. Thank you.
And I know, you have handouts, so if you, what, do you want people to find you or do you want to meet them at the?
I'll go to my table because some of them may be interested in some of the grief and loss you may not have a need for. So I'll be at my table and happy to share with.
Okay, Anita, anything that you have that you want to give folks, okay?
Giving them they have my card and they have the
Let me
elephant.
switch to my last one.
And I'm happy to answer any questions if that's all right. You can come up and ask them.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So-
or however you want to do it.
For Nita and Charlene, if you have anything from your presentation that you're comfortable, that's not proprietary, that you want to send us as a PDF or whatever, we can send that out to everybody Wednesday, Thursday, when we send everything else out.
Okay.
So we don't, don't send us stuff that you're, your proprietary, that's your business, et cetera. But if there's things like the contact information or the resources or reminding of what your groups do, anything you're comfortable, just
Okay.
send it to me as a PDF. Or if you don't know how to do a PDF, I'll convert it to a PDF and we'll get that sent out with the post meeting recording. So one more time for these folks, we'll get them off the. One more time for Choice Matters for our. Thank you to the advisory committee, Elder Source for everything. These guys came early. They came into work and get everything set up. It looks beautiful. Thank you for all that. And our last couple of dates, you're going to see our next 4 dates via Zoom, May 2nd, July 18th, September 12th. We are hoping to be back in person, hopefully a hybrid in November. And so that's kind of our goal for that. So you'll see that. And it's also in the the LinkedIn group as well. And I think, is that our last one, right? Last slide. So thank you all for coming. Very appreciated.
Thank you to the tech people.
Yes.
thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. No, I'm so sorry. I think it started with the tech people. So please say goodbye / hello to anybody you haven't had a chance to meet as you're heading out. If there's materials in front of you that you want to keep, please feel free to do that and hope to see you on Zoom in May.